Hey everyone, I need to tell you about my friends over at Toner. I get asked all the time about how I started my show many years ago, and it wasn't as hard as you think, and that's because of the help I received from Toner. The Toner TC30 microphone is simple to use. Plug the USB into your laptop or PC, and it's time to record. The best part, it's only $42.99. Not only that, the quality is absolutely tremendous. There's a narrative around the community that you need a super expensive setup to get started, and it's not true. The Toner TC30 is so impressive and reasonably priced. It's the perfect microphone to get your voice heard. Cardioid patterns, clear sound, and easy to plug and play. No mixers or soundboards needed. So listen to me right now. Go down into the description of this video and click the Amazon link below. The TC30 microphone, it's time to get you rolling into the podcast world. What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Bros. That was a totally unacceptable basketball game. I'm very disappointed. I'm depressed because I anticipated them to show up. And outside of Joel Embiid, nobody really stepped up. James Harden wasn't there. Tyrese Maxey wasn't there. Doc Rivers wasn't there. And, of course, the opponent balled out. Whether you look at KD and Kyrie Irving and the mixture of Seth Curry and some of their bench pieces, they just absolutely annihilated you. They outcompeted you. They worked harder in every single aspect of the game. And from there, it really hurts me inside, and I'm extremely disappointed. Now, I'm not going to fight with anyone today. At least that's not my thought process heading into the show. I've seen it all over the place. James Harden sucks. James Harden blows. James Harden's pathetic. I've seen that, oh my Lord, look at Seth Curry. This guy's fantastic. Even though in his last previous efforts, he gave you 3 of 10, 3 of 10, 3 of 6 tonight. He bought out and punched everyone right in the testicle and flipped you to bird. But the point I'm trying to make is I see that this is one basketball game, and it was truly one pathetic, really bad, terrible basketball game. But if you see this team in a 7-game series, not that it's preferred, because when you have Kevin Durant, you can do anything, and you have a chance. He almost brought you to the promised land by himself last season against the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm not telling you I want this team, but I'm telling you that in a 7-game series, I do believe that the Sixers will give you a better effort other than just looking at it from a 1-game sample size. It's a really awful, tough night to have one of their stinkers. One team rose to the occasion while the other team didn't. Now, there's a variable here that you can't forget. It's not an excuse. I'm just telling you that it's part of this. The Brooklyn Nets are desperate as hell. Now, this game had so much juice and so much anticipation for it anyway that there's no excuse to get bodied that way. The way that the Nets were getting looks while the Sixers stagnant offense. Seth Curry gets crushed by Kevin Huerter last year, and nobody saw that more clear or clearer than Doc Rivers standing on the sidelines. How did they not even to attempt to target that matchup on the offensive side? Tyrese Maxey should utilize his quickness, utilize his speed, and he looked small today. He came out very small. Same with Harden, and those are the biggest reasons why you lost the basketball game. One team executed at a way higher clip, knocking down shots at 70+% from the field, knocking down 11 threes. I'm looking at the box score. There's still 27 minutes left in the game, and it seems they're already at double digits from behind the arc. Kevin Durant shooting over everyone. His shot so pure, it hits nothing but the net and hits that back iron to the point where the net doesn't even move a damn inch. So they executed, and James Harden came up small. There is a narrative about James Harden not playing well in the playoffs, having some weak spots out there in his career. But the way I see it is, I'm not going to tell you that he can't do anything because of his turnovers today and because of his lackadaisical play today. And it felt like he was targeting fouls nonstop every possession, where he'd drive down into the lane and he'd meet a bunch of contact there, and everyone's going up and he's trying to argue that he's getting fouled, popping his head back instead of just focusing on playing the game the right way. And the fact that they didn't even attempt to look at Seth Curry and to put him in there defensively and to just attack, make him work. If you remember last year in the postseason, there was a time where Trae Young They wouldn't attack him on the defensive side. That impacts you on the offensive side. And maybe he doesn't have the same amount of legs and he's not as fresh to drill shots the way that he was. If over 30 plus minutes of him running up and down the floor, the Sixers made him compete on that end, and that just wasn't the case at all. And that's not the only reason why they lost. This was a collective group. I know Tobias did okay if you look at the box score and whatnot, but really no one showed up except for Joel Embiid, where he's in the face of Kevin Durant, face-to-face, yapping at the free throw line, chirping at one another and acknowledging it. Now, to be fair, it scares me. I'm going to be 1,000% honest with everybody. It definitely makes me upset and makes me nervous when I look at Kevin Durant fired up and fueled up, because when he's motivated and he has that extra determination, it's a scary sight. This dog knows what he said. This dog's a killer. Okay, this guy goes out there and he carves you up and he picks you to pieces and he nonstop crushes shots right there when you're 5 centimeters away from his face. So if he's going to get all sorts of amped up and there's going to be a different level of energy towards him, you know he'll rise to the occasion. And that makes me nervous. Not that Embiid wasn't willing to match it as best as he possibly could, because he did. Getting fouled. I had people in my comments, and the reaction of tonight's game somewhat pisses me off most, but I would see these reactions about Embiid's only getting foul shots. He's not even good. The only reason why you're looking at his numbers and saying that you're satisfied is because he was getting fouled. Do you not realize how talented he is to force the other team to foul him? Andre Drummond's getting plowed and moving back 6 feet and unfortunately rolling his ankle during that play, but there's reasons why he gets to where he does on the floor, and then players have to foul him, and they did. He earned those fouls. That's what a big body, 7'2" man does to you when he can beat you in 7 different ways. Guess which way? And when you do, you're probably going to be wrong. His footwork is magical, and then he earns himself free throws at the line. The problem is you couldn't stop him to save your damn life. And this is what I'm going to say about Matisse Thybulle. It's not on Matisse Thybulle. I'm not telling you that I'm upset with Matisse in a big picture here, because today, or I guess I say big picture within this game. So with a big picture approach here within this game, this is where I feel that Matisse Thybulle won't give you much. And didn't give you much. It's because this other team knows how to attack Tyrese Maxey. It's because they just stay away from Matisse Thybulle. And they get the shots that they're looking for elsewhere. And they work around the perimeter and get what makes them feel comfortable. When you allow 40 in the first quarter and Matisse Thybulle's playing, and then you allow 70 plus when Matisse Thybulle's playing, I'm not telling you it's his fault individually, but I'm telling you that what is the point if your team is still getting annihilated and crushed when it's not like he gives you anything on the offensive side? Now, this game goes way farther than Matisse Thybulle, but utilizing that mentality is something that I constantly am going to do, because if this team's going to have teams roll down the middle of the paint and get wide open looks from 3, even if Matisse Thybulle's out there and they put up 70 plus, look, you're not walking back to the locker room saying, good thing Matisse Thybulle's out there and it's not 77 or 79 in the first half. It's only 71 or it's only 73. Good thing it's not 78. No, when you're allowing that much, you got to have something else going for you. The problem is, I don't know who that option is going to be. And another layer to this, we witnessed a different play when James Harden was available in there. He wasn't available tonight. I don't know where he was, but James Harden was not available for your 76ers at any point. Matisse Thybulle changes significantly when he's able to cut, and James Harden can see the court and have the vision and actually be some sort of consistent offensive player. So Doc Rivers said it pretty right from the post-game presser there, pretty blunt, and it basically came down to the other team wanted it more than you. They brought more life than you, which is crazy considering the circumstances, but there was a lot of adrenaline and there was so much buzz. It's sort of similar to what happened with Duke UNC when Coach K had his last game. The only difference is Duke showed up and went show to show and kept going back and forth with the Tar Heels. Ultimately, you're disappointed if you're a Dookie because you didn't win the game, and it's such a high-pressured moment with such a historic thing tied to it. You would like to do that, but Duke actually showed up. The Sixers didn't at all. But I just wonder, from a human element here, one team was getting to play. See, the thing is, they were playing more free. I thought the Sixers looked more tense, knowing that it was their hostile environment. Even though Rich Paul didn't really get anything that he was looking for. Was there anything that Grievance said that he gets $20 million now because the Sixers fans were so disgusting and so brutal? Absolutely not. You got your 5-second into the broadcast Santa Claus joke, and then from there you just moved on, and it was all about the basketball game because the Sixers got crushed, to be fair. But I'm just saying, Rich Paul, this whole master plan, I hope it backfired on your face, right back into your face. One thing that bothered me throughout the broadcast, though, was Reggie Miller saying how much this team is going to be so much better with Ben Simmons. You mean the guy that screws up all the spacing? The way they try and label it is, Ben doesn't have to worry about scoring. Not that I really give a damn about the Nets right now, because I don't. I'm more disgusted in the effort that I saw out of the team that I care about. But ultimately, over and over and over again, I'm hearing all these words about Ben Simmons this and Ben Simmons that. They don't need to demand him to be a certain type of scorer in this thing. Yeah, then you just have a guy, Reggie. You just have a guy. And this person believes he's way more than that. He carries himself as Louis Vuitton. I did like his Jordan 4s, though. We put on the Jordan 4 Lightnings, the yellow, it popped. But here he comes in looking like a jerk off in the line before the game begins, grabbing rebounds, taking 0 shots, but grabbing rebounds for Patty Mills. And then he goes and grabs the ball during play and passes it to the referee when the ball came. I can't stand him. I can't stand him. He's a liar, and he's made up literally everything just to try and squeeze money out of this agreement. I can't stand him. But let's be realistic. He got the last laugh. Even though I look at it as a joke and I look at it as a flaw because you did nothing. You telling yourself that this was so massive tells me everything I need to know about it, because I know internally for you, Ben Simmons, that was such a massive step. You're a fraud and you're a loser. And this team is going places not because of you. It's literally nothing that you do. I'm saying if this Nets team does make any sort of spark, it has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with a healthy Kevin Durant and a healthy Kyrie Irving. He's clapping on the bench after a crossover 3 by KD with this big smile on my face. You have no idea how to even do that, Ben. You don't deserve any sort of excitement. You're not allowed to have it. I'm banning it. I'm taking it away from you. You can't have it. You don't know how to do that. I can. So I'm allowed to have that excitement. Who are you, Ben? Loser. Fraud, liar, bad human being. But I digress, because the 76ers suck today. Awful defense, very emotional. And watching KD, I'm going to put away my 76ers emotions for, I don't know, maybe 3 seconds here. But watching KD, you know I love greatness. I love LeBron. I love Tom Brady. I love Serena Williams. I love Tiger Woods. I love Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, you name it. I love them all out there. Djokovic. I love when players take over and are an obnoxious outlier and annihilate teams. When KD gets his killer mode on, there's maybe 7-8% of me during a Sixers game that goes, damn, that's fucking awesome. Damn, that's unbelievable. Damn, this guy doesn't make any sense. There is a part of me that does that, but then my other 92% of my body flow returns, and then it's all, damn. Come on, Sixers. One thing that bothers me, though, on how much they allowed the other team to take their soul. If there was one point where it got out of hand, but we saw some fight, and then we crushed them afterwards for starting off so slow, and keep in mind, they haven't lost a game with James Harden yet. So this is their first loss with him in the lineup, and it was terrible. He shot 3 of 17 from the field, and some of his threes, just, no, not good enough. We need a way more efficient level of play out of James Harden. But here's another thing I constantly say. James Harden's ruining your defense. What was their defense before this trade? Please, enamor me. Please. Let's dissect this. Make me pleased here. What was their defense before? Please me with the statistics of what they were before. When Seth Curry was your player. See, the problem is, it's not that Seth Curry all of a sudden with 5 steals is some amazing guy on the defensive end of the floor. The difference is you just didn't go after him. You didn't try to expose that. And if you didn't try to expose it, what the hell are we doing here? So come on. All right. With that, we're going to open up the phone lines right now. 856-442-9805. That's the phone number to hop on board if you want to climb in. 856-442-9805. That's where we begin today's show. That's my thoughts. If you're looking, by the way, to buy tickets to go to any game that is way better than the one we just saw, you can utilize the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page for $20 off of your purchase. So if you're looking to go to any event out there, any concert, any game, anywhere, promo code BROADS, $20 off. That basically pays for your parking and eliminates all those fees. And then if you are new to the channel, we're a little deep into this. Normally, I like to say this a couple minutes in, but I just got onto a roll. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate it. And then TikTok, at Broads Media, hit the follow button there. We're incorporating a lot of fun stuff on that website. The comment section will probably make you laugh. And with that, let's go to the phones and we'll start this off. Good evening. You're on Broads Media.
Broads.
Yo, what's going on, man?
I am so disgusted with internal rage that I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. That piss poor effort they put out today.
Yeah, I think that's fair, man. It's definitely one of those games. See, sometimes with the Eagles, when they play very well, you get excited. You watch the extended highlights 7 different times before you go to sleep, and it definitely keeps your night kind of going with a bit of life. This one's just a complete opposite, where it was such a failure and such a dud. You try and wrap your head around how it got to that point of gross.
I was screaming at the television saying, how in the first 5 games do we have this beautiful pick and roll with Harden and Embiid? And where did that go? Where did that offense go? I mean, I know that Embiid was doing well, dominating, getting fouled, but other than that, it was like, we're just standing around. And then I was like, Jesus Christ came out and blessed the Nets, and they played the best defense where we couldn't go around anybody. I mean, what were you watching? I looked at like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call. It's a great question. And I think, honestly, in the beginning, they were so structured and so head-on with the idea of getting Joel Embiid the ball low and putting the Brooklyn Nets in some sort of foul trouble. And there were a lot of multiple different possessions where I was sitting there screaming when somebody got caught in the post and they were looking to kick it out and they picked up their dribble. So here comes some Brooklyn defenders coming in for some help by the baseline, whether they come from behind or they're coming from a different angle over the top. They put him in a position, right? And here's everyone standing around the perimeter just watching and seeing what was happening. There was no help. There was nothing. Everyone's standing there with their hands above their chest, but you gotta help out the fella here. You gotta help out the big man and start moving so he can have some help. Whether it was, I don't think it was Joel every possession, but regardless of whoever it was on the half block area at that specific time, can we please get something? I'm screaming. And it's been quite some time since I totally went full throttle screaming at my TV with that level of intensity. But yeah, I agree with you. Their offense couldn't get going. I thought maybe they tried to keep going to Embiid, which I can't fault them for doing, but it did seem like maybe it messed up the flow of getting others involved in the game. Now, maybe it's just as simple as if James Harden was hitting his shots, we don't feel this way, right? James Harden missed some wide open threes. Not that he's going to make every single one of them, but he also went downhill and tried to get contact, which totally threw him off of his vibe. And he was definitely all over the map in a lot of horrible ways, where if he just simply played better himself, then some of those possessions, it opens up a lot more of the game for him. And there's a reason why over the last handful of games where they haven't lost with him in the lineup yet, we keep praising how great that passing is, but your passing's a lot different when you're a threat to score. When you're not, look what happens. And it was clear that Kevin Durant was hungrier. Kyrie Irving was hungrier. And Kevin Durant with the killer mentality is definitely something I don't want to be a part of. And they stepped all over James Harden in this one. But let me be clear. I'm not going to get suckered into morons on social media and younger kids on TikTok who are 7 in my damn comment section with a picture of a New York Giants helmet as their logo. Because everyone who always talks shit on those type of apps have LeBron James or a Lakers logo as their profile picture on TikTok, and then they want to start fights in the comment section. You want to call James Harden a guy who can't perform in big moments. You want to rip him apart and say they lost the trade or anything crazy like that. Have at it, dude. Have at it. Look, I'll wash my hands. I'll scrub them up. You can have that take. I'm not going to get suckered into that lifestyle where this one game now means that the Sixers are nothing. Did you see some of their deficiencies? Yeah, I thought they showed up. But the Nets have deficiencies too. They just weren't as active this game. And their superstars made up for it on this exact game. In a 7-game series, I don't anticipate the Brooklyn Nets shooting from 75% clip, and that's what they had. That's why whenever we talk about these playoff series and I say the Sixers are in the mix, that means I see these series go in 6-7 games. I never say this team's so damn good they're going to walk over every single opponent they see in the postseason, no matter what round, no matter what team, no matter what squad, no matter what superstars. No, they're in the mix with everyone else. I think a lot of these series, especially against teams that have firepower like this, you're talking 6-7 game series. And in those 6-7 game series, the Nets have a game like this. Maybe not this ugly, but they have a down version game. And the Sixers have a down version game over a 7-game window. It just stings that on this night, with all the drama, you got this. Maybe there's a correlation, though. I don't know. Let's go to Amadeo, who's hanging out on the phones. What's up, Amadeo?
Ben Simmons makes me absolutely sick to my stomach looking at him on the bench smiling. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing on there, trying to piss us all off.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, it was basically a money grab for his grievance, and I don't know if Rich Paul got what they were looking for. But to be honest with you, I know I mentioned a little bit earlier that's somewhat of a background noise for me. One, I'm happy that the reaction wasn't as terrible. I didn't want someone to go overboard and make this an even more nationally televised thing than it already was. So from that, I wrapped that up. I put it to the side. And then when I study the game, which is the most important thing, he technically gets the last laugh because the Sixers just got bent over.
Exactly. It's one of those games where, everything coming into it. Everyone was looking forward to this game, and everyone, literally but Joel Embiid, drops a humongous dud, and that's where you get the huge overreaction just because it's that game everyone was looking forward to, and now everyone's going to question James Harden, everyone's going to question Tyrese Maxey, and that's not what people should be doing. This team is going to be fine. It's one game against, everyone was looking forward to, sadly.
Yeah, I agree with you, Amadeo. Thanks so much. I'm definitely in that type of mindset as well. They just won, 5 straight games before? Well, they lost the one without James Harden on the second half of a back-to-back when they played the Miami Heat. But that's why I always tell you, when they win games like they did against the Milwaukee Bucks before the All-Star break, you get all excited, as you should. But there's a lot of games like that in the regular season that you're stoked about. Then there's probably 5, 6, 7 games in the regular season that hurt you and make you feel uncomfortable. And then you start digesting, okay, what went wrong? And you start analyzing that game. And then there's a lot of beef in the middle. And with all that collective information, you get your consensus, really. And so this falls in a portion of those games that you see in a regular season that really does put you in a devastating mode and you lose sleep over. But from a whole big picture with it, I'm just going to take some deep breaths and not overreact too much. So this is James Harden after the game. Tonight was good for us. We got our asses kicked. Says it should help give them a wake-up call and show them what they need to work on. Okay, I don't think that that's a wrong way to approach things. I don't think that that's a bad, negative way of seeing what happened. Now, obviously, we're not okay with the result whatsoever, but now that it's a reality and we did see it fully play out the way that it did, there's one way to go about it. There's one right way to go about it. There's another path that you could choose, which is crumble up and fold and put your head down, but I don't see this locker room having that type of mentality. Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid, James Harden, and you have to teach Tyrese Maxey the way because he doesn't fully understand it yet, and he's not fully there yet. He's still developing big time. These are the type of moments that go a long way with not only young players, there's a lot of veteran players that definitely still need ass kickings like this. And you know what? Now that it's happening and it's backstretch, handful of games to go. How do you respond from this beatdown? And that will tell me a lot about who this team is. And I know basically they do have a good stretch of games. Now they play Orlando they play against Orlando on Sunday. No one's going to change their mind or change their opinion based on anything like that. But if they respond, even though it's a second half of a back-to-back, which is another brutal thing to witness here, but the Sixers playing the Denver Nuggets at home on Monday. If Joel Embiid does this thing and dominates Jokic and the Wells Fargo Center erupts and it's a magnificent, strong 48 minutes, you start to kind of change the direction again, and this becomes more old news. But I get it. Right now, it's terrible. And you can one thing I'll say to Amadeo's point that he didn't touch on, I agree that I believe they will be fine with the longer it goes on, and just you keep playing more games, and inevitably, because they're good, they're going to put together a nice streak of winning 3 out of 4 or doing something like that, and the speculation changes a bit, the tone changes a bit. There was something to the tragedy tonight, though. So why? Why did it look bad? Both can be true. Study why and start picking apart what needs to change. I think as an offensive game plan, you got to go in a different route when you see it playing out the way that it did. You have to utilize Seth Curry's flaws and take advantage of it as much as possible. That's what the Brooklyn Nets just did. Target Maxey. Keep going after him, putting on his heels. You studied Seth Curry in this town not too long ago to a Kevin Huerter, a nice player. So that's part of their flaws. I get it. Embiid's your positive. So run through your positive. Run through your strengths. I'm not anti that whatsoever. But at some point, Maxey's got to flourish. Maxey has an advantage too, and that's his speed, and that's how crafty he is, which you don't think he could blow by Seth Curry constantly? But no, instead, Seth gets some time off on the defensive side, which played a role in why he was as spry as he was on the offensive side. So both can be true. I'm not hitting the panic button by any means. I'm upset. And I have to hold them accountable and say that you need to be responsible for that putrid effort. You just got blown out bad. And when you listen to sports talk radio, you see all the social media guys of beat reporters and even other players around the league, and really the NBA world, sports fans around the world. This game had that much pop. This game had that much noise surrounding it. So, you came out flat as hell. Be responsible, which I anticipate them doing. Hold them accountable. Be responsible. But I feel they have so much talent on this team that I'm not going to overreact and tell you they can't do anything just because of this. All right, back to the phones we go. You're on Broads Media. Hello.
Hello, Broads. I was expecting to come in here and just trash Ben Simmons, but I was not expecting to come in here all depressed and shit. But this game. I don't want to say this. This is a game why so many people out there say that are so afraid of Doc Rivers being the head coach of this team and James Harden being one of your top players on the team going into the playoffs. This game really exposed a lot of their
but let me throw it the other way around. If you're in the NBA right now and you're told that you have James Harden, Doc Rivers, and Joel Embiid, you're in a great position.
Yeah, but bro, you always say this. You always say that you shouldn't judge NBA players until they hit their prime area around 27 or 28 and not judge them.
Yeah, that's when it's
what they did previously.
That's ready to win now.
What? He's like 32, 33 at this point?
Yeah.
And this guy has had a lengthy history of not delivering in big games.
Yeah, but you just also have to use all the context involved in what that happened. You are correct, but you're also facing what? The best team in the Golden State era when that was going on. That was one of the most electric teams. You're talking about breaking history and winning 73 games, right? Even though they didn't even win it that year. But to say that you constantly lost. See, this is what I always throw it back to. You're right. James Harden has not won a Larry O'Brien trophy. Do you know how many players in NBA history never won because there was a stretch of other players that took it from them? But that doesn't mean that skill level isn't enough enough to accomplish the goal and that you're in a bad position if you have that talent. Charles Barkley was one of the best players we've ever seen in NBA history. He doesn't have a championship. Does that mean it's bad that you don't have that on your team because there were some playoff moments where another team won and maybe he wasn't the best in a certain game? There's so much talent involved in this game where if you have this, it doesn't mean you're in a bad spot or that it's not good to have them, even if they've never won before, because it's that damn difficult too. This is the type of talent that you need to be involved. Without this, you're not involved. Right now, you are in the mix because it's there. That doesn't mean that you automatically win a championship. Or what's the alternative here? Not having James Harden? So I understand bringing up that he's had tough moments, but every NBA player in the history of the NBA, you can say that about. Even the players that have won a championship have had miserable playoff experiences too that maybe limited them from having another one, or maybe it limits them from going on a series of runs to the NBA Finals. But because they win one, it's like all the other parts of their NBA championship career with their runs aren't magnified because they got past once, but maybe they had the skill level to do it 3 or 4, but they didn't accomplish their goal. So for me, I understand talking about Doc Rivers. I'm not a big Doc Rivers fan, but the problem today was James Harden didn't show up. Tyrese Maxey didn't show up. The team came out flat. Literally every player on this team came out flat for the most part, except for Joel Embiid. And that's what happened tonight. But if you think about going on a run and flaws on this team, yeah, there's flaws on this team. Daryl Morey hasn't been able to put his fingerprints on everybody yet. It's hard to. Ben Simmons holds out. You get rid of Al Horford. You move Josh Richardson. You get James Harden. And they're definitely in contention this season. But Daryl Morey, no one told him he had to snap his fingers after the trade and this team is just perfect. No. But based off of everything surrounding how they got here, they've pushed a ton of the right buttons and have done a fantastic job on even being in this position. So let's see where it goes from here. Even if you do point out the flaws of the head coach and James Harden, the player, I'd still rather have, like, bringing it up to complain about it. It's what's the point? Because you're still in the best spot you possibly could be in based off of how you even got in this position to begin with. That's the way I see it. All right, back to the phones we go. Hello, you're on with Broach.
What's going on, bro?
Yo, what's going on with you?
Not much, man. So I got a couple takeaways. I ain't gonna lie.
Okay.
I'm mostly on your side with the whole thing, but I will say, James Harden performance tonight, it did scare me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie, it scared me just a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're in the moment right now too, so it definitely eats us a little bit differently than, let's say, 3 days from now.
Right. Because I definitely was one of them ones, even before he got to the team, was one of the ones saying, like, you know, he doesn't show up in big games and whatever. But like you said, he played against who he played against. My whole thing with today's game, in that first quarter, Embiid was like kind of almost unstoppable. Like, so I feel like in that second quarter, when I believe we were down like 7 or something like that, why not go back to him? He's fouling out everybody. Go back to him and play the game through him until everyone else gets involved. When, you know, like.
Yeah, I think they tried to at one point, but then they had to go to the bench. And when they go to the bench and they bring in DeAndre Jordan, although he did have a couple buckets, not to say that I'm excited about anything I saw from DeAndre Jordan, though, because at the end of the day, that's not making the difference on where this team is going. And he did have some tough spots, too, on the defensive side of the floor. But anyway, I think they tried to as much as possible, but at some point, other players have to step up. There's only so much one man can do. And think about how toxic that is on the body, and you can't really hold on to anybody else right there at that point. So it makes it difficult. When Matisse Thybulle is taking wide open threes for you, you're in a tough spot.
Yeah, you're like, you're absolutely right. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, thank you.
One thing I will say too, I want to say this. I've been watching since probably you had like 4,000 subscribers, man, and you're about to hit 20K soon. Keep doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep grinding. You keep getting bigger every day as we watch. And, I love it.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for all the kind words and then taking the opportunity to say that and take your time out of your night to call into the show. I greatly appreciate it. We do have some super chats that have been going throughout the chat room. I've just been ranting. I've been screaming, so I haven't been able to pop them all up on the screen. But I do want to say thank you to everyone who donated. Al for the $2. Al for the $2 again. I appreciate that. Does that say it's your birthday tomorrow? Is that what that says? Well, happy early birthday. I appreciate that. In 1 hour, it'll be your birthday. So happy birthday to you. And thank you, Al, again for the $2 donation. Okay, Al throwing $2 my way constantly. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we are going to rock right back to the phone so we can hear from the people and the reaction of what we just saw. The murder at the Wells Fargo Center. The booze that backfired at the Wells Fargo Center. We had everyone in that building to let it rain on one man. And instead, the Sixers themselves got booed. Oh, dreadful, 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 dreadful. Hopefully this call is not dreadful. I got faith, though. Good evening. You're on with Broach.
What's good, bro?
Yo.
Man, before I get started, anything I just want to say, man, congratulations on almost hitting 20K, man. And the same thing, how much your channel's growing, man. It's like, this is insane. Compliment on the agree, on the count. But this is what I gotta say. This is just a regular season game, and people are over here blowing it up like this is like a playoff loss. Remember when the Eagles were in the run for a championship and they had that loss against Seattle? People were blowing the Eagles up, and what they do? Win the Super Bowl. All I'm trying to say is this is just a regular season game. Yes, it was a big time, but one bad game doesn't mean it's the end of the season. We could have been the Lakers. Look at the Lakers. They lost to the Rockets. We ain't like that. We top in our damn division. We're doing good.
Yeah, I feel the same exact way. Thank you so much. I'm glad that the callers seem to be on that same exact message. And once again, thank you for all the kind words as well. I just think you need to separate both of them. I think you can absolutely sit in your couch afterwards, listen to the show that we're doing right now, whether it's on your iPad or on your iPhone. And by the way, we're on all podcasting platforms. So if you use Spotify or if you use Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave a 5-star rating and a review as well. I greatly appreciate it. That was a nice transition smoothly that I did not expect to happen, but I'm glad that it did. Hopefully you can help me out. If you're sitting right here watching this gameplay and you just see the team get exposed and the defense gets shelled and the buckets just keep coming down right in front of your face, Kevin Durant, soft touch, pure shot, Kyrie Irving for 3, Seth Curry, who's celebrating right in front of your bench and you just can't stand it, but you also respect it because you know that you liked him when he was here. With all of that there, you can be really annoyed and bothered and lose sleep at night because it stings. This is never good. And if you didn't have any sort of reaction towards it, I would be concerned. So I want you to find that balance of, I can't accept this as a fan, knowing how much blood, sweat, and tears I put into this, and think about all the time that I put into my emotions with this team, that no, not good enough. It needs to change, and we demand that we see a better brand of basketball the next time you take the floor on Sunday. And then even though it's on a short rest back-to-back against the Nuggets, the Orlando Magic stink. Handle business the way that you need to. Get your in-game, old-school level of load management, put them away early, and then you move on to the next game and show us something. Battle. You weren't even there. You were not even present in one of the biggest games we had highlighted for how long? March 10th, the day the trade happened, and the day Ben Simmons spoke to the media. All we studied was, when is March 10th? We overlooked baseball not even being a sport for the year. They were canceling games, moving back opening day. They were pushing a second series. The owners and the MLBPA back and forth. Rob Manfred till 3 in the morning. We just overlooked all that because we knew Ben Simmons was coming back to town, and we were going to be the most obnoxious, but in a respectful way, obliterate Ben Simmons in so many different ways with our post. And you didn't even show up. You weren't even there. How? It seems physically impossible. Even though I think the too much adrenaline was a part of why they stunk and missed a lot of their shots. One team shooting over 70, the other team shooting about 25. There's a 0% chance. With these slow starts as a whole, there's a big difference when you have a slow start against Cleveland or you have a slow start against even Chicago, these fake playoff teams that are up there in the Eastern Conference, the teams that nobody truly believes in because they don't have the superstar talent that you've seen in this Eastern Conference as of late, whether that's Jason Tatum putting up 50-plus or Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant or Joel Embiid and Giannis in the Milwaukee Bucks. They're not even close. So if you start off slow against some of these other opponents, you could be okay by the third quarter when you put your foot on the gas. But here, other than Joel Embiid, you just need more consistency and need better looks and just got to get better rhythm from your offense as a whole. I thought that was killer. The entire flow of the offense was just obliterated right by the jump. And it's possible that was adrenaline-based plus game plan-based, which I don't mind going to Embiid. But then when James Harden got the basketball, he wasn't playing well at all. That was one of the most dreadful games I've seen. He just looked overmatched. And I don't know how he looked that brutal. I'll be honest. I was stunned to see him that out of touch. That out of whack. I know he looks to draw fouls. Trust me. James Harden and Joel Embiid, the combination of those two, were always going to be deadly at the line. And that's what we were excited about because teams are going to have to dive deep on their bench and go 11 deep, go 12 deep. Why? Because you're picking up your third foul, you're picking up your fourth foul, and now you got to rock a different backup center that you didn't want to. Or you have to go deeper in your ring department and throw a different guy out there, but he's also going to get beat up too, no matter what. But with James Harden tonight, ew, nothing worked. How does he respond? People fail. We're humans. I've had some bad things happen to me, and I've had some bad situations occur. How did I respond to that? What did I do to change the narrative? What did I do to put me going on a different course so I could change that? You're going to fail. And the Sixers absolutely failed today. I don't think you have to go overboard and now change how deep they can go. I've been so consistent on this vibe since seeing what Joel Embiid and James Harden can do with the two-man game and with Maxey. This game doesn't tell me that all of a sudden they can't do anything. And they're lost basketball players for every game, no matter when these teams show up. Go back to NBA playoff series and go ahead and see that these games, sometimes there's a lopsided game. The Philadelphia 76ers, when they played the Toronto Raptors at home and they went up in that series, they blew the Raptors out. Joel Embiid's doing the airplane ride and he's celebrating. He's flying around the arena. They lost the series. They didn't even win that series. They got their heart broken on the road in Game 7. My point is there's going to be outlier games when you're playing tough opponents, when you play them a handful of times. The Sixers went into Brooklyn one night and did a fantastic job and won, and we loved it then. And we discussed it then. We love that one. We hate this one. Just take it for what it is. Roll with the punches. Learn from it. This isn't a crumble it up, throw it in the trash, and then don't worry about it game. No, this is we are going to go back and study this one. But you need those. Those are important. They're very valuable from the positive perspective here. That's the type of information you need to take it back to the Camden facility. Had a little bit of a brain fart there. Go back to the Camden facility, study the tape, and make sure that doesn't happen again. All right. Let's take it to the phones. Hello, you're on with Broads.
What is going on, Broads?
Yo, what's happening? I'm doing okay. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I'm doing great. It was definitely hard to watch tonight.
Dumb question. I agree. I'm with you.
It's not a dumb question though. You hop on the phone with someone, you say, "Yo, what's up?" So I'm not gonna bash you for asking how I'm feeling.
Hey, it's Philly Mike just to get out the way. But
what up?
I just.
You there?
Yeah.
All right, so hit me. What do you got? What do you got on the game? How you feeling?
I mean, it was a dumb question because it was horrible. But I agree that the overreaction is just a bigger thing that's going through Twitter, going through a lot. And I understand the Net fans to be super excited, right? They got Ben Simmons. He didn't play. They beat us without him, not knowing what he's going to bring to the table. And the Sixer fans are hearing all the questions around Harden and blah, 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 blah. But look, it was a poor shooting night all around, right? You don't shoot that bad. Like, that is the bottom of the barrel shooting. So it happens. It's done with. If it was a series, it wouldn't have happened again. Same with their great shooting. But you still got to look at it like, as you said, wasn't this game circled? Wasn't this game supposed to be a little bit more? Wasn't it supposed to be that playoff atmosphere? And a lot of people, including Joel Embiid, his aggressiveness, I think, hurt him in the sense that his finesse game was gone. He was just trying to bulldoze, and I liked it. I loved him in the first quarter, but I thought it paid dividends through the second, third, fourth, and all that stuff. I just think that this is not the game that the Sixers want to play. I think it was more ISO ball, and I think everybody was in their head, and it showed on the scoreboard at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was all great stuff, Philly Mike. You're the man. And if you obviously haven't seen him, which is crazy because he puts out fantastic work, make sure you check out Philly Mike, the Philly Talk podcast here on YouTube. He does a great job, and he works extremely hard at what he does. You touched on a lot. I do agree that their style of play, if you go back to the tape, maybe they try something different next time. They have to. I mean, honestly, they're desperate to try something different. I think the number one thing that stood out to me with their approach on the offensive side is get guys going more. But then I keep going back to, okay, if you want to get Maxey going more by attacking Seth Curry, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-duh. You need to get him exposed. Seth Curry gets exposed all the time. A lot of times. He honestly is at the point at moments where you can't even have him on the floor, yet that was never the case tonight, and it was never even close to being the case, where that's number one. But I also wonder if James Harden was just drilling his shots, does naturally and organically the entire offense opens up because you need to respect him and play him differently, and that's why his passing in other games was way sharper, and teammates were getting better looks, and the spacing on the floor seemed to have more juice to it because of James Harden saying, I'll score. If you don't respect me, I'll score. And if you have to respect me as much as you do, I'll go around you, I'll put the ball on the floor, I'll dribble, drive, and I'll penetrate, and that will either put you on your heels or you need to send help, which then opens up a different lane and it gives a passing lane. And then that organically snowballs into Tyrese Maxey being able to expose that matchup, because if you need to help the defense and guys have to slide, now Maxey's getting a wide open basket from the corner, or he drives and gets his floater game going, or even steps inside the three-point line and looks for a mid-range jumper. So my thing is, while I absolutely agree that there's definitely different ways to go about things with your offensive sets, and maybe you look at different matchups, I also feel that if James Harden just shot the ball better and played a different brand, but maybe that's part of what they tried to do. It wasn't as savvy as we've seen in games past. It was more head down. It was more shoulder down. It was almost as if their game plan was put them in foul trouble, which I don't mind that game plan from a logical standpoint, but you can't just evaporate everything else. Just like anything in this world, you need to find a perfect balance. And they lost that balance, and then over time, within that 48-minute game of run, it got out of hand, and they didn't have enough fight to climb back into it, and there wasn't enough energy surrounding a lot of these players, unfortunately. And the Nets, smiles on their face. Kevin Durant, when he had that and one tough bucket kiss off the glass layup and was staring at Joel Embiid, was on the ground doing high fives before he got pulled up by his teammates. I have to admit, though, when Embiid and KD got into each other's face, I had the goosebumps. They panned out, the broadcast did, to the entire stadium, and it was the loud rise, and there were so many cheers, and you got drunk people fist pumping their beers, and the place just rose, and it was extremely loud. I got the goosebumps going. This is the beauty of sports right here. Two guys, and one, you know how much they respect one another, too, because they've said it publicly a billion times, that there's nothing sweeter than when you see a competitor on the other side that both makes you internally take that next step and want to move forward. Who's going to win that? Who's going to be tougher, both physically and mentally? Who's going to answer to the smack talk? And Kevin Durant had the response tonight. There's no doubt. He does that to a lot of players, though, and I will appreciate the fact that Joel Embiid didn't back down. Standing up is the number one. Number two was executing. And I'm not putting this game on Joel Embiid by any means. He really was left out to dry. I talk about Joel Embiid's growth, though, a lot. This is a regular season game. It's not a playoff game. I'm aware. But I think that Joel Embiid could even learn from this one. The whole entire team. But I feel that this could be crucial to what not to do later on. We already have that. Imagine this was game one of a series. You use that to then make adjustments for game two. This wasn't a playoff game. Let me repeat that. This wasn't a playoff game. But the mindset of learning something that didn't work tonight is almost as if you ever get matched up with this team again and you do see them within a series, you already have information now that can maybe go far within the long game of this matchup. And just like Philly Mike stated as well, the reaction to some on social, I'm not fighting back with anyone. That's how I'm at with this one tonight. You know, there's times where I love it, and I'll bring on haters, and I'll bring on all sorts of trolls in the chat, and I'll fight back here and there in the comments, and I'll enjoy it knowing that it's talking sports. You're supposed to talk smack. That's what I talk about, beauty of sports all the time on the floor, and you appreciate big moments and big shots being drilled, all that. It's special for sure. You don't remember those, or excuse me, you don't forget those. You definitely remember those. Same can be said about trolling and going back and forth. With this, though, I'm just going to take the back seat here. I'll take the bigger man card. If you don't want to see it logically and big picture, fine. You don't have to. You're entitled to that. I'm not going to make you. And quite frankly, I don't think I'm going to change your mind into forcing you to feel a certain type of way. I think they'll be all right. Tonight was bad, though. No one's sugarcoating that. Tonight was one of the most disturbing games of basketball I have seen. They got their soul snatched from them. Imagine if they played one of those hard-fought battles where it's back and forth and it's one shot after another shot. It's the fourth quarter. It's a 4-point game. The Sixers go on a 7-0 run to pull it within 4. The Nets call timeout. The Wells Fargo Center is all pumped up, and it goes to TV timeout. Then Ben Simmons chants start happening just because it's a great time to do it. All that. And then you lose and you come up shy. Embiid gets a last-second shot. It hits the front rim again, and then falls short, and you hear the deflation of the Sixers. And I hate to put such a nasty type of hypothetical in your head, but the realistic, not even hypothetical, the realistic action was way worse. That I'm trying to play devil's advocate or give you the alternative, the other side. If they lost this game but looked like a good team doing it, then we feel totally different about it. Not that I'm breaking news here. Just saying, the way that you got your heart ripped out of your chest and you were a no-show. How is it a no-show? Too much? I hate to break it to you that if the answer is too much, and this is out of the ordinary, it's a regular season game, you are wired differently in the postseason, and there's an automatic switch that happens. So until that switch is flipped, it's hard to pretend that the game is as meaningful as a playoff series because naturally the moment takes over. You know this is a 7-game series compared to this isn't. It's a regular season game where the Nets are fighting for their playoff lives in a play-in scenario right now. We're comfortable more up at the top. But if this moment's too big, what should we expect with the shining lights on? Maybe I answered my own question. When it's the big lights, and it's the real big lights, it takes over. Because this game isn't. But that's all crap. It's all crap. I'm just trying to look for answers here and throw things at the wall and sticks. Because you can't be fooled by the moment. You can't be fooled by the 10,000 people that are standing outside the Four Seasons ready to boo the moment he walked onto that bus to go down to the Wells Fargo Center just for the early shoot-around. Please. So totally unacceptable and can't happen. All right. Good evening. You're on with Broads. Hello.
What's up, bros?
What's up, man?
Yeah, Mason, I'm a first-time caller from Lansdale, and I got to say that this was an absolutely abhorrent performance from the Sixers tonight. And this one stings a lot more. And as you've been saying, this is a regular season game, so really it should matter. But this one stings so much more because all the hype and Simmons coming back and that's out and all that. But I just want to pull up a really a really big stat that popped out to me tonight. Seth Curry shot 10 for 14 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3. 24 points. That is completely unacceptable. He's a good player, but I just think that with the unit we have out there, he should not have gotten as many looks. And before we got James Harden in that trade, we had a lot of perimeter ball movement where we wouldn't get into the paint a lot. And I thought I saw a lot of that again tonight, which is really scary. But I'm just hoping that this is one of those games you can chalk up as an off night. Learn from this, watch tape, like you said, and just move on past this one. This was bad.
Yeah, thanks, Mace, for the call, for sure. And when you think about Seth Curry, a lot of the reasons why he was able to get some of those looks and get as wide open as he did, and this isn't to say that the Sixers defense is good and then the Kevin Durant's of the world annihilated the good defense, because the defense is whack and totally horrendous. But when you have Kyrie and Kevin Durant going off the way that they do, a third player like Seth Curry, the game changes, and it ties exactly together with what we saw with the Sixers, but the opposite. Joel Embiid got going, but Harden was so poor that impacted Maxey. If Harden explodes and he gives you 26 with 14 assists, Maxey generally has a good game because you have to worry about Embiid and Harden. So if Kyrie has an off night and he's shooting 3 of 17, does Seth Curry have a different level of notice on him defensively? I would argue yes, but Maxey just got annihilated out there on the defensive side, and that's something to worry about. Teams are going to stay away from Thybulle and attack other players. And with that, what do you do with Matisse Thybulle then? That's the concerning part. That's the concerning part for me. And that's not to say that that's Matisse Thybulle's fault, because at the end of the day, it really isn't. The team, though, as currently constructed, is getting beat for 40 in the first quarter. You can't come back from that against good opponents. You're allowing 70-plus points at the half. Their offense let them down big time. Now, I thought the call was going to go something along the lines of this. I can't believe they passed Seth Curry up for James Harden. Look at what he did. He destroyed you. Yeah, well, it's the same as Halliburton. Halliburton scored 11 points, 14 points, 10 points, 9 points. Then he comes to Philadelphia and explodes for a big night. And because you don't watch the Sacramento Kings, and I'm not here to tell you, you have to watch the Brooklyn Nets every night. But Seth Curry, 3 for 6, 6 shots the other night, 3 for 6, single digits, 3 for 10, 3 for 10. This is what he put on display the last 3 out of 4 games. We've seen it. We know. If you see something different in Seth Curry, then God bless you. You got the strangest eyeballs in the history of the world. He has the ability to explode for big nights like this, and he wows you because he has killer nights. He does. But within those killer nights, you got a bunch of 3 of 12s, 3 of 4s, 3 of 9s, and 8-point nights, and ankle injuries, and a hamstring, and this and that. Tonight, it so happened to be one where he showed up. And not only did he show up, but he really punched you in the gut. And he does have some of that dog in him. Now, his skill level has a cap because of his deficiencies on one side, but he's a player who I always respected his approach to the game. And I think a lot of what happened with Ben Simmons and the drama that was when Ben was still here played a big role on why I feel the way that I do. You could tell a lot about the press conferences, your answers, and, you know, how you handle some of those tough spots. And he basically said, I don't give a damn. I'm here to play basketball. If he wants to show up, he does, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I'm worried about myself, and I have to worry about what I did in the offseason and apply that to this year so we can put our team in a great position to succeed. And that's basically, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, but that's what Seth Curry gave you at the time of the beginning of the season. And he kind of has that screw you mentality in him. And okay, so tonight he did. But don't lose context of what Seth Curry has been around his time so far with the Brooklyn Nets. It's what they need because of Joe Harris going down? Sure. Have at it. That wouldn't stop me from acquiring a James Harden, though, even through your 3 of 17 from the floor. I can't get over some of those takes. Some of those takes to the basket, though, trying to Euro step and basically running full speed right into defenders. I'm just so stunned. He's too smart of a basketball player. We always stress his IQ and how he sees the floor and he gets everybody engaged and how he helps out every single other player on this team find themselves. And he does. It's because he does. And there's a big track record of him doing it for a long time in this league. So when you see it this putrid, it's almost puzzling. It's confusing. What's he doing? The competition level, I mean, I saw a lot of the hands up more than anything else. Looking around at the referees, looking at the stripes. Yo, zebras. You didn't see it? I got hit on the arm. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. But over the length of the game, over the course, bad take after bad take after bad take. Not enough team basketball. Seemed very isolated tonight. So with our hopeful thinking and our attempt for some sort of positivity, keep this in the back of your head. More than in the back of your head. Maybe in the middle, in the frontal lobe. Keep it in the front part of your brain. Don't let this slip. It's okay to be humbled. It's a good thing to be humbled. I'd rather take a beat down by the Sixers and embarrass what was Kevin Durant. I'd rather that happen. But this is what we saw. And we can't change it now. This is what happened. So let's go. Come together as a team. Approach it moving forward with, all right, look, that happened. Let's go now. Let's go. We'll be all right. Keep your head up. Keep attacking. Let's go. That's the way you got to do it, and we'll see how they respond from it. I want to keep hearing from you, though. 856-442-9805. That's the phone number to hop in. The Anytime Hotline. Let's go back to it. Hello, you're on the air.
Yo, what's up, bros?
Yo, what's going on?
Ah, man, about to throw up after watching that game. But other than that, man, one thing I will say from, that's kind of concerning me is that, for instance, I was at the game in Miami, the game they just had against the Heat.
Okay.
Where they also played trash. And obviously, when you're there in person, you get to see, a lot more than on TV. And the guys looked like they were checked out.
Well, to be fair, there was no James Harden, and it was a second half of a back-to-back. So that does change a lot of circumstances on that night.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't checked out from the game first started. What I'm trying to say, every time they get down and, the other teams, for instance, against Boston, where we got blown out, Miami, where they basically just beat us up the whole game. And this game, it's almost like once somebody gets hot on the other team, hits a couple of big shots, and they get down by 12, 14, they kind of just check out. That's one thing. And I was watching Doc Rivers, of course, his idiot self, after the game talking, and he was like, well, they just wanted it more tonight. They just played a lot harder. And it's he always says that anytime we get blown out. And my question is why do the other teams always want to play harder? What is it that their coach is saying or doing that gets their guys motivated?
Well, I mean, this is the NBA. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't wave pom-poms in the locker room, and Doc Rivers is inspiring Joel Embiid to get going, And thank you so much for the call. I do think that there's legitimacy to this. When you look at Miami, even though they were very shorthanded and it was a second half of a back-to-back while Miami's at home and they're resting and waiting for the Sixers, I can't just pretend that that's not part of the context. But yeah, tonight and in Boston, there seemed to be against some of your rivals when it got super tough and you realized you couldn't get over the hump, you collapsed. And that is a common theme with some of these better opponents. With that said, we also discussed how when they have fallen behind in previous games this year, they always come through. They find a way in the second half to have some sense of urgency. They put their foot on the gas and they come back from down 20. They come back from down 18. So I think it's fair to say this. There seems to be a moment when they are playing better teams where, let's say it's middle of the third and there's still a good amount of basketball left, but they're still stuck at that 20-point deficit, or they're still stuck at a spot that makes them feel, I don't know if we can do this. There seems to be a bit of a, oh, all right, I don't know. But to be fair, I'm utilizing really just 2 games because the Miami one, I'm sorry, I can't relate that to a normal. You're going to see them in a 7-game playoffs. You get normal rest and you're flying at a normal time compared to getting into Miami at 3 a.m. and then not having your primary point guard and then playing a basketball game without a point guard, which they've been doing all season long. But that's a problem and that's an issue. So that one does sort of have a huge asterisk next to it. with the rest, though, of some of these losses that you brought up, of Boston and of Brooklyn, it's happened, but I also feel that you remember the negatives way more than you remember the positives. There's plenty of times this year where we deservedly gave them the credit that they respectfully were due because they were down 18 and they went on a run. They were down 15 and they had a big monster life session of hitting threes, and their defense started clamping down at the back end of the third quarter, which bled into the fourth quarter, and then they went on a nice run there in the middle of the fourth to win the basketball game once Joel Embiid re-entered. So that happened a ton this season too. It's just easier to remember the things that make you more upset. It's like, that's why on social media, people who like you reach out less than the people that despise, because the negative energy always seems to be louder and always seems to be thought about more. And that's just how it seems to go. So I think that, yeah, it's had its spots shown throughout some regular season games here against some of these better opponents, but I can't get behind the whole that now all of a sudden this team can't do anything because of how it looked tonight. I'm seeing comments all over the place, and I get it. It's a bad loss. It's a bad loss. It's a bad loss. I'm disappointed in the loss. I'm not changing what I feel about what this team could be based on any regular season game moving forward. When they won a ton of games, I didn't get any higher. When they lost these games, I don't get any lower. I am in the position of they are in the mix with the Boston Celtics, with the Miami Heat, with the Milwaukee Bucks, with the Brooklyn Nets when they're healthy. They won a lot of games healthy. They lost a lot of games when their players were unavailable, whether it's Kyrie Irving due to COVID stuff or James Harden with the hamstring or Kevin Durant out. But they're in the mix with other teams. It's just that simple. No win against Denver will make me feel any different. I'm not claiming they're winning an NBA championship. I'm claiming they have as much firepower as these other teams do when it comes to superstar talent. Tonight, on this one individual night, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving outperformed Joel Embiid and James Harden. Kyrie Irving did just put up like a 50 burger the other night. He's also had nights where he had some tougher nights shooting. Unfortunately for the Sixers, that night did not come tonight when they were at the Wells Fargo Center in front of a loud 20,000 fans that were ready to just crush Ben Simmons as much as humanly possible. And it turned into a shit show rather quickly as the Sixers really couldn't keep up. They fell apart quickly. They fell behind pretty quickly. And then from there, it was a tough go for a lot of people involved. And unfortunately, that's kind of what we saw. I do laugh, though, constantly at what Ben Simmons' role could be on this team, and you don't need him to do anything, but they just keep forgetting that somehow he is going to have magical spacing on the offensive side of the floor. Is it possible that Kevin Durant overpowers you, even with the brutal spacing? Yes. 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 That's why I feel, can James Harden and Joel Embiid overpower Matisse Thybulle's lack of offense if they are playing well? Yes, yes, yes. Especially if Matisse Thybulle is cutting off the ball and there's more ball movement within the offense. Yes, absolutely, I do. The team didn't perform tonight. I hate to simplify it for you, but I'm also not going to go way too much into an extreme and dissect everything to the nth degree. If your players played better, you'd be all right. Tonight, they didn't play good. I want to see them again, though. We got $5 donation coming in from Abs. Daryl Morey should have fixed our bench along with the Harden trade. What do you mean? You can't do everything. You can't snap your fingers and have the entire world to you. You had to acquire Harden. Once you got Harden, what more are you doing here? Trading bench pieces for bench pieces? If you trade Shake Milton, which you're not doing because nobody wants Shake Milton, he gives you zero value. But my point is, if you trade Niang, what are you getting? If you trade Danny Green, what are you getting? You getting another bench player? Obviously, they're not trading these guys. But I'm just saying, if you're Daryl Morey, you make the move for Harden, what do you have that is getting you bench players. You have bench players. So bench players are getting you other bench players. This is why I stated as soon as the trade happened that this is exciting because you definitely have the best superstar tandem as a two that you've had in a long period of time as a franchise and as a city. But Daryl Morey still has a ton of work to do, and there's a lot of things that he needs to do. And this more opens up a window for about 3 years or so, knowing Joel Embiid is entering his full prime, knowing where James Harden is at his age. This is now the beginning of Daryl Morey being able to implement his thoughts and his creation once you acquire that superstar talent. Tobias Harris is going to be gone in the offseason. I guarantee it that Daryl Morey is making phone calls, thinking about who he can send him off to take that money and then acquire some ways to get in some lethal talent and utilize that max contract differently. And then he's also going to look to bolster up this bench and build up this bench. So you couldn't have done that all at the trade deadline. If you stayed the same, you weren't good enough. If you made this trade, you're in a better position. And then there's still moves that have to be done. And unfortunately, you can't do it all within one trade deadline. But even with that, you're still in a better position now than you were before the trade. So you still make the trade. That's exactly how it should be perceived, and that's exactly how it should be seen from everybody else out there, because it's pretty obvious how it is for me. What's it like to you, though? And that's what I like to know, and that's why I like taking phone calls from you, and that's what we are going to do. So hello, good evening.
Yeah, what's up, bros? 7 and 6 is for life. Win or lose, 7 and 6 is for life. Let me say that first and foremost.
Always, always. What do you got tonight?
This is what I want to say. It was a tough loss tonight. Nobody showed up, and to a certain extent, Joel Embiid didn't show up either. To a certain extent, he didn't. He was a leading scorer, but he didn't show up. Harden, he really didn't show up. But what really bothers me, and what I can't get over, is not the actual game. It was listening to these commentators say things like, "Hey, it's great to see Ben Simmons smiling again. It's great to see him on the bench engaging his teammates again," as if we did something so traumatic and it traumatized him. We did nothing but support that kid. For 5 years, we supported that kid. We defended him. Ben's immaturity and his unprofessionalism done this. We did nothing to him. That's what bothered me the most. Listening to these commentators commentate the game and coddle him as if we did something terribly wrong to him. That's what bothered me the most.
Yeah, we knew that was going to happen, and thank you so much. We knew that was going to happen, and it was going to be viewed one way no matter what 76ers fans did. They didn't even do anything wrong. They kept it pretty clean. They kept it pretty good. Now, there wasn't as much time to let it fly based off the fact that they got so crushed, but realistically, the national media is still going to find ways to discuss how the 76ers targeted that night, how their fans were towards him in the beginning and booing him and then cheering when he made that dunk in the warm-up, but he didn't take any shots, which is telling to me that he didn't even take one little 5-foot jumper at all. He just stood there and rebounded for Patty Mills. I will say to start my response on the call, I was definitely more outraged and more bothered by the game itself compared to the broadcast. I expected that. I expected them to baby Ben Simmons and say that they're happy for him and say that they're excited for him and it's a good step for him. And I didn't expect anything else. So I probably expected it to be even worse. But like I said, I think a reason why the broadcast wasn't as hectic is because the Nets took it from you so harshly that there was no room for Sixers fans to do anything other than let the players in their own uniform hear it. They didn't rise to the occasion. They weren't prepared. They didn't battle the way that we needed them to battle. I'm more pissed with the play. Now, I also disagree with you believing that Joel Embiid, to an extent, didn't show up to play. At some point, you got nothing. Foul after foul after foul after foul, getting to the free throw line. Now, he missed a couple free throws, and I thought, is he going to get into his own head? Is this going to change his demeanor? Is this going to change his body language? But no, not really. He kept getting fouled. He kept going back. I got zero, and I mean zero thoughts on Joel Embiid as if he was any sort of the problem. When James Harden plays this poorly, your point guard, your floor general, when he's this terrible, it makes everybody else that much harder it makes it that much harder for everyone else to play. Trash for James Harden. I got zero thoughts on Joel Embiid in any sort of negative way. He used all of his energy. He maximized his entire efforts out there. And then once you see you're down 26, you're down 24, you're in the face of Kevin Durant, and you're leaving everything out there on the floor, and you start kicking the ball out, and there's no one helping you when there is a double team happening, and you realize Matisse Thybulle's taking a three, and you go, that's what the offense we're relying on. We're relying on a Matisse Thybulle three right now, and I give it to Harden, and Harden can't even get going, and he's missing the basket, and when he does throw it up towards the rim, it's awful. It's long. It's short. It's clanking off the back of the iron. At some point, it's just so deflating and so defeating. And then the other team knows. The other team's fully aware. All right, read Joel Embiid right now. Look around at everybody else. He knows he can't trust anyone. He knows that if he puts the ball in anyone else's hands, you don't feel confident that the shot's going in. And you don't think that players like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant sniff that out instantly and then take advantage. So zero, and I mean zero, animosity in my eyes towards the big fella. The most important piece tonight, there's two. It's a combination of Harden and Maxey. You can give Maxey a little bit more of a leash considering his age and knowing that at this point in his career, there's going to be ups and downs. With Harden, you expect more. It's the I'm disappointed in you older brother concept, where you're disappointed in the older brother, the younger brother, he doesn't know any better. It's on you to show him the way. And he's done that for a lot of different areas so far in Tyrese Maxey's game. The step back threes, and that's not just Maxey, that's Embiid as well. But he's shown a lot of these players the craft. You also got to show up in the game, though. You have to. Abs with another $5. My thoughts on Bradley Beal rumors. For me, that's more in the offseason. Right now, I'm in the position to worry about what we're going to see this back playoff run. So I'll worry about Bradley Beal whenever this season's over, whether it's after a parade or not, when the offseason is happening and we can start discussing what Daryl Morey can do, then I'll be more open to that dialogue and more open to that conversation. But as of right now, I'm not even thinking about Bradley Beal. I'm thinking about what can this team do differently to play around some of these deficiencies that we saw tonight. Because they do matter. I'm not acting as if they don't matter. Their defense is a problem. The high pick and roll tonight. I'm watching Kevin Durant. I'm seeing things that make my eyes bleed. Something has to change. You have to try different looks. You got to force them into more pressured shots. Things like that have to occur. Now, these special players make their buckets over good defense. That's why elite defense beats elite offense beats elite defense majority of the time. So I'll take that matchup every single night. The percentage-wise, I'm willing to take elite, high-powered offense over a good defender any single day. And that's why I feel the way that I do about Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle. I'll take a Seth Curry over a Matisse Thybulle. And I even said that at the time of the trade. I'm okay if you keep Thybulle and give up Seth Curry, but just because spacing is so important, and I'll take you getting beat a ton defensively if you have the ability to score offensively, because that puts your team in a better position compared to just being a good defender that has zero offensive game. Crazy that it got this ugly. Bizarre it got this ugly. This ugly against the Celtics and the Nets. You got to dig deep. Now, adversity could be a blessing in disguise long term. Hell, the Ben Simmons thing was a blessing in disguise long term. What's the response? What is the response? Sunday doesn't really count. Monday, though, see, the problem is it's the second half of a back-to-back. And I know you won't be giving that any sort of leverage, I guess. And earlier in the show, I don't think I did either. I said, I don't care. Show up. And I feel that way. But I also can't pretend that it's not there. It's there. It's another back-to-back, and that's a thing, unfortunately. All right. Hello. You're on Broads Media. We're going back to the Anytime Hotline. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Brody. I'm calling in because I knew I was going to tune in to your show because, I knew that you would be watching the game and, evaluating like what's going on. And I'm just being honest because I'm a Nets fan and a Philly fan.
Interesting.
But I knew that Philly was going to lose tonight.
Oh, how did you know that?
going to have to do with Harden. And I need to hold you accountable, Mr. Brody, because I looked past some of your streams and you said we shouldn't hold Harden accountable for his past games with playoffs and things like that. And the thing is, I 100% disagree with that because he has a reputation of falling short under intense pressure.
Okay, so
And
I want to bring this up.
Like
We can have a discussion about it. So I'll say this to your beginning part of it all. I value it, but I tell people all the time because it's true. All the great ones that we praise, they failed in the playoffs multiple times, majority of them before they ever finally get to that ultimate goal. So just because you fail in the past doesn't mean that you will never succeed in the future, because the number one example I always bring up was Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan failed and failed and failed, and then he eventually won, and we remember him winning, and he's the greatest player ever. But it's okay just because you have failed in the past. Charles Barkley failed. Does that mean that he's a horrendous player? No, but there's players who are very talented that have the talent to win championships that don't necessarily always win a title. And it's okay to fail. It doesn't mean you're a loser and never can win, because the players who do win, they've also failed in the past. That's my mindset with it.
Okay, I appreciate you, re-explaining that for
Sure.
me because, now I agree with what you're saying. And I do hope, I am rooting for Philly because you guys truly do have some of the best fan base. And you guys, honestly, especially with what happened with Ben Simmons, I agree with the last caller. That was just a mess. And I really do hope you guys, with Harden, because I do think Joel and Harden, they're such an awesome team, and I am enjoying watching them. As a fan, I'm just enjoying watching it, and I just hope for more of that. I am disappointed.
I gotta pick your brain. I gotta pick your brain here. If the Nets and the Sixers saw each other in a 7-game series, now I don't know how to feel passionate about two teams like this, so I can't relate. If these two teams play, what do you do?
Brody, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going for the Nets here.
Oh, you're done. You're out. You're out. I'm done. I knew that was coming. That means you're a Nets fan. And I appreciate the call. It was a great call. I appreciate your tone on things and your conversation. I had some fun. But you go Nets, you give me Nets, that means you're a Nets fan. I don't know. I think that's a violation. You can't like two teams like that, right? You can't. Unless you don't have any dog in the fight and you just enjoy basketball as a basketball fan compared to a diehard sports fan for the Brooklyn Nets. You could be, so for example, college basketball for me, I got no skin in the game. So if I see someone on Michigan State go off for 32 and someone on the other team in a Big Ten game, I don't know, let me just randomly choose Iowa. Somehow these two teams are playing and someone on Iowa has 42. I got no skin in the game. So I can just sit back, relax, and watch greatness and watch two kids ball out and not have any ties. But while I'm watching them play in whatever, March Madness, I end up, whatever. But if you actually care for a team, you can't then open up the door to care emotionally for a rival, for a big-time rival too. I can't have it. But I appreciate the love. I really do. So, yeah, I mean, to kind of summarize, damn. That's my summarizing. Damn. That stunk. And I'm pissed. And now I have to fall asleep tonight knowing that that was the basketball game that we just witnessed. It's a terrible, terrible feeling. We'll take one more call before we wrap the show up. One more call. We'll go back to the phones here. Hello.
Hey, Brody.
Hey.
Hey, I just wanted to say that, and this is coming from a Bulls fan, that the 76ers fans don't deserve any of this.
Why?
It's not you guys' fault. Oh, well, for starters, it's you guys didn't do the James Harden trade. This was all on Morey. He gave up Seth Curry, gave up Drummond, and Ben Simmons.
Am I supposed to be mad
Curry,
that they made?
I'd
I'd make this trade 10 out of 10 times.
You rated 10 out of 10 times? Oh,
A thousand out of
be horrible.
a
because you guys
thousand,
needed a shot.
1,000 out of 1,000 times I'd make that trade.
But then how does this game? How do you feel about this game?
I mean, this is a
quite
regular
honestly,
season
nobody
game.
was shooting from the three.
Yeah. But they weren't good enough to win a championship as currently constructed. Look, the Brooklyn Nets are not winning a championship because of Seth Curry and Andre Drummond. They happen to have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and that's why they're winning games, and that's why they're as talented as they are. No one fears Andre Drummond and Seth Curry, so...
All right. To be fair, you got a point right there. They got Kyrie, they got Kevin Durant. But for the 76ers, if they were to still manage to keep Seth Curry, and still manage to keep Andre Drummond, and somehow miraculously manage to get James Harden onto the roster,
I mean, you'd be fool. That makes this no sense. They weren't good enough before. They just had that. That's awful. See, that's what pisses me off is Seth Curry, the last 3 out of the 4 nights was awful. 3 of 10, 3 of 10, shooting 30%, missing wide open shots, brutal, getting attacked defensively, getting annihilated by Boston when they were attacking. He was bad. He has one good night after 3 out of 4 tough nights. This is Seth Curry. He can give you 24, but then he gives you a handful of games from 7 to 10 points. And because the game happened today, all of a sudden you got to go back and change the trade. It's a foolish 1-game sample size where if you watch the Brooklyn Nets over the last handful of games, how come the Seth Curry argument was never brought up then? No one ever looks at Seth Curry's nights where he's bad, but when he's good, it's the most eye-popping thing in the world. This team was nowhere close to good enough before the James Harden trade. This team might not win a championship, but they are better now than they were before the trade. Andre Drummond and Seth Curry are just people. They're just guys. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving is why you have a chance to compete. Joel Embiid and James Harden is why you have a chance to compete. James Harden and the Sixers just won every game since James Harden was here. All of that goes away. And you just pick on this one game. Why are we looking at one game and not what James Harden does as a player, as a bigger body of work? It's one regular season game. That was bad. I want everyone to go through the last NBA championship seasons and look through their regular season and let me know if there was ever a bad game against a good opponent. When the Lakers won a championship, did they ever have a bad loss throughout their 82 games? When the Milwaukee Bucks won their championship, did they have bad losses in the regular season? Did the Phoenix Suns have bad losses last year when they made it to the NBA Finals in the regular season? Absolutely. That doesn't mean the Sixers are winning a championship. My point is, just because you have a bad, terrible loss doesn't mean that you can't win and you can't win a playoff series and you can't win a round. I used this example earlier in the show. I think it's the perfect way to analyze how I feel about this particular spot. The Sixers blew out the Toronto Raptors at the Wells Fargo Center in the playoff series. They lost in 7. Blew them out to the point where Joel Embiid is doing airplanes, okay? Sixers, Raptors, Game 7 series. Let's see if I can find the full scoreboard here. Okay. All right. So here's the entire series. Oh, no, that was Game 7 itself. What was that? Was that Game 3 maybe? Was that Game 3 because they went up 2-1? 116-95. All right. They held the Toronto Raptors to 14 points in the fourth quarter, and the Raptors scored 95 total points as a team. The Sixers won 116-95 and blew them out. They lost the series. But at the end of that game was this team's they're going to win the next 2. It's so game by game in the NBA playoffs. And when you play better teams that you got to breathe. You got to breathe a little bit more. Because Game 4 was the game where they ended up losing 101-96, where the following night, the Sixers couldn't even score 100 points and they lost. Then the series was tied going back to Toronto. It's game by game. Every game has its own identity. Every game has its own life to it. Tonight, This is one that's going to sting, and I want it to sting. But you can't start making outrageous claims that this is Daryl Morey's fault to acquire James Harden. Imagine thinking that the Sixers are in a better spot with Seth Curry and Andre Drummond than they are with James Harden. That's foolish. One of the best 75 players to ever play the game of basketball. I don't want him because I want Seth Curry and Andre Drummond. It's brutal. It doesn't mean the Sixers are perfect. They're not perfect. But this puts you in a better position to succeed than staying the same. And that's clear as anything else. So clear. But anyway, we're going to end things here. I want to thank everybody so much for hanging out with me tonight. If you're looking to buy tickets, once again, SeatGeek promo code BRODES, $20 off. If you're new to the channel, smash the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up button as well on your way out. And then TikTok, @Brodes Media. We're going to incorporate more fun there. We're having a blast. With that being said, thank you guys so much. We're going to continue a ton of conversation tomorrow. More on the Sixers, more on the Phillies returning, and we'll definitely keep it going. So stay on the lookout here at Brodes Media. Thank you guys all so much, and I will see you next time.